Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to week 17 of the 2022 fantasy football season. It is championship week. Well, I guess I'm not really in any championships this year, but we're playing for third place in some leagues. So every week this season, I've made a video. I shouldn't say every week. I think I missed a week or two because I was like traveling and stuff. But every week, for the most part this season, I've set my lineups across my 3 fantasy leagues so you guys can see what goes on in a real life league. And I can give some advice on setting lineups and doing waivers and trades and all that stuff. So this is our final video of 2022. It's been a great season. We got some redraft and some dynasty leagues to look at. So let's get right into it. So I made the playoffs in this league. So I'm in 2 redraft leagues. This is the one league I made the playoffs in. I didn't make it in the other redraft league. And then in my dynasty league, I did make the playoffs. So we're going to start with this first redraft league. This is a 12-team non-PPR redraft league. It's been going for like a decade. I think this is the 10th or 11th year. And my team is the Bungling Buffaloes. I think I got 3 championships in this league. And this year, it just didn't work out. Drafting Jonathan Taylor and Javonte Williams 1 and 2 definitely did not help. Miles Sanders and Rhamondre Stevenson, it looked like they were going to really carry me to a championship. But they really just... Miles Sanders had some bad performances down the stretch here. And Rhamondre Stevenson, when I needed him, he had 1.3 points. Justin Fields only had 9 points. Tyreek Hill was my only player over 10. You know, Metcalf, 81 yards. Schultz, 43 yards. Latavius Murray, 6 points. My special teams combined for 8. So even if I played Kirk Cousins, who had 24, or like the Patriots defense, who had 14, it still wouldn't have been enough because I lost by about 50 points. So, you know, on my opponent, he started off the week on Thursday Night Football with Zay Jones in that Thursday night game, only putting up 1.1. So I got off to a good start, but Taysom Hill and Jalen Waddle and Justin Jefferson and Joe Burrow, they just kind of dominated me. So, props to Scoliosis. He was the number 1 seed. And honestly, I'm pretty happy to be playing for the number 3 spot, just with the injuries to my first and second round picks. I wish I would have drafted, McCaffrey and someone else in the second round, but it is what it is. In terms of transactions, I added Jahan Dotson for 0 fab. Courtland Sutton. I don't even know if he's on my team. I did drop him at one point. I don't know if I picked him back up or not, but we'll see here. So I'm playing for third place. Here's a little playoff bracket. So these 2 teams are playing for the fantasy Super Bowl. I'm playing for third, and we may or may not get our entry fee back for third place. I actually don't remember. So I'm still just playing for that and for pride. So far this week, I have already had Dalton Schultz play on Thursday Night Football, and against the more the merrier. Him and I have been going back and forth since the draft about I was a big Dalton Schultz believer. He thought he was, a good player, a good tight end, but nothing worth drafting with any sort of, even somewhat high capital, just because he kind of thought he was sort of just like this streaming option, And I obviously was not under the impression that he's a Travis Kelce level player, but I thought Dalton Schultz was at least a step above someone you're going to get like in the 15th round. And he's had an up and down season, but it's just kind of nice that he put up 17.6 points with 2 receiving touchdowns against the guy that said I shouldn't have drafted him. Granted, it's for third place, and it doesn't really matter that much, but it's just kind of funny. And one thing he said was that Dalton Schultz can't have big games, and I said last year he had multiple games with multiple touchdowns, and he did it against him again. So I digress, but I just thought that was funny. He's got some injuries too. No Gibson, no Cup. Hurts is doubtful. So all sorts of teams are dealing with injuries. If your team is not dealing with injuries, you're blessed. And if you are dealing with injuries, join the club. You're not special. Every team is dealing with injuries. Obviously, there are some situations where it's like ridiculous, but that's fantasy. A lot of it is luck and just trying to stay healthy, sort of like the real NFL. I did not add Courtland Sutton back to my team. Sometimes I like to do it at the end of the season, just so when I look back, I can see who was on my team. It's kind of a weird thing, but anyways, Justin Fields, I'm starting him against Detroit. It's a good matchup. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I know he had a bad week last week, but I think it's going to be a bounce back game. I'm starting him over Kirk Cousins. I do like Kirk Cousins this week, but I think Justin Fields in this matchup just has crazy upside. Miles Sanders, I am just kind of forced to stick with him. he saw a ton of volume last week. He had over 20 carries, so hopefully he gets similar volume and it turns into something productive for fantasy and he doesn't fumble the game away in my fantasy game away, although I would have lost regardless. Rhamondre Stevenson, if he's in, I'm playing him unless it comes out that he's going to be like severely limited. I'm going with Tyreek Hill, Jahan Dotson, and DK Metcalf. So if Rhamondre Stevenson is out, I will put... well, if I have to play a running back, I'll play Latavius Murray. Right now, I have Jahan Dotson in there at wide receiver. I was also considering playing Hollywood Brown, but I don't know with the quarterback situation there. I might just roll with Dotson just because he's been great lately. Just roll with the guy who's been hot instead of rolling with Hollywood Brown, who has been not, and hope he turns it around. But I'll probably pick wrong either way. But Tyreek Hill is obviously an auto start, even with Tua out and Teddy Two Gloves starting. And DK Metcalf, it's a tough matchup, but you know he's one of my favorite values. I drafted in a couple of leagues, and he's been pretty good for fantasy. So I'm going to stick with him. Is he really the wide receiver 12 in this format? That's crazy. I remember I got some crap for drafting him as well. So, and Tyreek Hill, ironically. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this is my lineup for this league. If I make any changes, I will comment it down below and put it in the description like I always do. So now we're going to move on to our second redraft league. This one is half PPR. This is a 10-team league, Superflex. We did an auction draft for this league. The previous league was a snake draft. This is an auction league. So this is a little recap of week 16. And did I recap week 16 in this league? I did. Okay, so that's week 16. Yep, I lost. And then this is the week 17. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a little brain fart there. Week 16, I did get a win. I'm not in the playoffs in this league. This is just a consolation bracket, so it doesn't really matter. But Kirk Cousins went off. Jalen Waddle, one of my favorite draft picks. I got him, DK Metcalf, for great values. I actually traded Ezekiel Elliott after their game against Detroit a while back. I traded Zeke away for Dallas Goedert, and then Zeke missed the game, was on a bye week. He might have missed another game, and he's scored a touchdown in every game since then. Meanwhile, Dallas Goedert has been good, but he missed some time. So it's just kind of funny. I thought that was a good trade at the time, but Zeke has touchdowned his way into being really good for fantasy. I had Dak on the bench, but, you know, I did just enough. Cam Akers was on my bench. I actually really thought about playing him over Deon Jackson. And I definitely should have, because that would have been like a 30-point swing. But either way, I got the win, and either way, it's a consolation bracket. These are the transactions, nothing that I have done this week. And then here's the playoff bracket. I'm in the consolation bracket. So it is what it is. I'm playing for... I don't even know what I'm playing for. It doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of going through the process of setting the lineup. I just like to stay up to date with, you know, fantasy football, set my lineup, keep up to date with the news and all that. So far in this matchup, I played Dak Prescott, who threw 2 touchdowns to Dalton Schultz, who my opponent played. And in this league, for whatever reason, there's always this level of tight end on the waiver wire. So, like, Gerald Everett and Dalton Schultz have been on my team at various points, but I dropped them both. It just kind of sucks that Dalton Schultz did this against me, especially because I'm such a believer in Dalton Schultz. But if it's going to be in any league, I'd want it to be this one where, you know, he puts up 20 points against me in the playoffs, because this is not even the playoffs. This is a consolation bracket. So he has a nice little head start on me. So I played Dak. This is a Superflex. I am playing Kirk Cousins in the Superflex spot over Geno Smith against the Jets. I know it's a revenge game, but the Jets have a good defense. And then I'm playing him over Mike White as well. I just think Kirk will have a good game. He's been pretty great for fantasy, honestly. One of my better values this year. I'm a big Kirk Cousins guy. At running back, I got Kenneth Walker against the Jets. He's essentially an auto start unless your running back core is loaded. Aaron Jones, he's also going to stay in there, even though he had a pretty bad game last week for fantasy. And then this was one of my tough decisions: Brian Robinson or Cam Akers. I know Cam Akers was the running back 1 last week, and he had 3 touchdowns. And it's a good matchup against the Chargers. But Brian Robinson, they don't have Antonio Gibson. I don't think the Rams are going to score 50 points again. I think the Chargers are kind of surging a little bit. I still love Cam Akers as a nice running back too. It's very close between him and Brian Robinson, but with no Antonio Gibson against the Cleveland Browns, it's a good matchup. Brian Robinson, I think you'll see a ton of volume in this game, and would not be surprised at all to see him get in the end zone. So as of now, I have Brian Robinson. I might make the switch if Kenneth Walker, who is questionable, but I think he's expected to play. I think that's what it said last time I checked. He's expected to play, so if he plays, I'm playing him. But if he's out or limited, I'll switch in Cam Akers. Jalen Waddle, even without Tua, I am starting Jalen Waddle. He just needs one big play. DK Metcalf, just a nice solid PPR guy. He's just been very solid this year. Really, really rock solid this year. And then DJ Chark, especially because I am down a little bit with Dalton Schultz, having a big game against me. I think in this game against the Bears, it's a high over-under. I think there's not going to be a lot of defense. I think both teams are going to put up points. I'm putting DJ Chark in there, and he's been good for fantasy. So I'm putting him in there over guys like Brandin Cooks, Jakobi Meyers. I know Jakobi Meyers had a good game for fantasy last week, but he had this crazy long bomb touchdown. It was like not even for him. It got deflected, and he caught it off the bounce. So he could have a good game, but he's kind of cooled off a little bit outside of that one kind of fluky play. So I'm going to go with DJ Chark, who there's a better chance of him having like a big play. So I'm hoping for the big play from DJ Chark or two. So yeah, that's my lineup. I'm going with Dallas Goedert at tight end. And I also drafted Jonathan Taylor and Javonte Williams in this league as well. So maybe I'll drop someone right before game time and pick up Javonte, put him on IR just so it can be a testament to him being on my team and those two men kind of ruining my fantasy seasons in redraft. Now we're on to our Dynasty League. This is 10 teams, just like the previous league. And this was the semifinal week, and I got absolutely destroyed by like 50-plus points. I mean, you look at my lineup, man, it was just ugly. Tua with 10. I mean, McCaffrey and Mixon were both double digits, but other than that, Latavius Murray, 6.5. This is also half PPR, by the way. 6.5. Miles Sanders, 5.6. Hopkins with, what was his name? Trace McSorley starting. He saw 10 targets and was 1 for 4 yards. Mike Williams did all right, 76 yards. Godwin PPR his way to double digits. Dalton Schultz, 5.8. And my defense had 20 points. So when your defense has 20 points and you don't even pass 100 points in a league where you're starting 3 receivers and 2 flexes or whatever it is, and you still lose by over 50, that's how you know it was just a bad week. But yeah, no Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson. He had a great start to the year, but he's just fizzled, not even active. I really thought about playing DJ Moore. I went with Latavius Murray. If I would have lost because of that decision, I would have been very sad, but it was kind of irrelevant. But it was kind of sad to see DJ Moore on my bench. But like Greg Dortch, I was never going to play him, so it's like whatever. It's a nice little dynasty player. I'm glad he's having a good game. Same with Richie James. I wasn't going to play them, but it just sucks when you actually really... I had DJ Moore in my lineup until a minute before game time, and I took him out. It was very... so annoying. But yeah, Greg Dulcich got dropped in this league at one point, so I'm glad I have him. He's looking bright for the future. And then Trevor Lawrence, we're going to talk about him in a little bit. He's been on my taxi squad since I drafted him in the first round. We can keep players on there for 2 years. And I think in this upcoming offseason, I'm going to have to either activate or cut people who have been on the taxi squad for 2 years. So you'll see what we're going to do in a second here. But it's also annoying. I traded away George Kittle, not because I think he's bad or anything, but there's just a lot of games where he's not utilized. So it just kind of sucks to see George Kittle blowing up in the playoffs. What I did was I traded him and a first-round pick for Kyle Pitts, just for that long-term upside, because this is a dynasty league. And I fully expected Kittle to have, more good games in his career, and be a great player. But, it was just happening in the playoffs when they could have used him. And I also did that because I had Dallas Goedert, I had Dalton Schultz to get me through. So I still think it'll be a good trade long-term. I think, once things get settled for the Falcons, Pitts will be a good fantasy player, but it kind of hurts right now, especially, with Pitts not doing anything for fantasy and then just being injured, but hopefully he comes back and he'll be solid. Here's some stuff that's happened in this league. I mean, I added Jarrett Stidham, but he's about to be on the waiver wire here. You'll see in a sec. Here's the standings. This was last week, so now I'm playing for third place. These two teams are playing for the championship. I've been very close to championships in this league, but I still haven't won one. I think this is like the fourth or fifth year. This is my match. Oh, sorry, that's a championship matchup. Didn't mean to click on that. here's my matchup for third place. I went against Zeke. Of course, he got in the end zone, but yeah, I had 21 points from Dalton Schultz in this league as well. He has Colt McCoy in there. I don't know if he knows that third place gets, I don't know if it's their whole entry fee back or half their entry fee or whatever, but I used to have DJ Chark on my team, and I dropped him like a long time ago, fun fact, before he was relevant. That's kind of cool. Good reminder, but hopefully he doesn't change this. He just kind of forgets. I'm recording this at 5:30 in the morning, so there's not a lot of time until game time. And then this is the change that I was going to make, ladies and gentlemen. Jarrett Stidham, you are going to be on the waiver wire. Trevor Lawrence, I'm activating you. And in this league, once you activate a player from the taxi squad, they're activated forever. You can't put them back on during the regular season. In the off season, there's different rules where you can move people a little bit more, but in the regular season, mid-season, once you make the change, they're off. Obviously, if you do it on accident, you can put them right back on. It's fine. But Trevor Lawrence is going to start for me over Tom Brady. Tom Brady has had like one great game for fantasy this year, maybe two. Trevor Lawrence has been hot. I know it's against the Houston Texans, who, you know, their defense isn't good, but offenses just don't have to do much against them. But they've been a little bit more competitive lately, so I could see this being a close game, and hopefully Trevor Lawrence will actually have to do something. But I think his floor is still very similar to what Tom Brady is pretty much doing every week, where it's like, you know, under 20, but more than 10 fantasy points. I mean, here's his box score. He had one good week in week 4, 25 points. He had almost 20 points the next week, but since then, it's like, you know, 10 to 18, 17 points. It's like there's no upside there. So I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence, who I think has a pretty safe floor, but also he's got that upside. I mean, it's night and day. You know, I mean, he's had his fair share of bad games, but if you look at him lately, okay, maybe he puts up 16 points. That's probably what Brady will do, but maybe he puts up 30, you know? So McCaffrey, who I traded for this season in hopes of a championship, didn't quite work out, but he's been great. I'm gonna roll with him. Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, those are guys I just start every week. No Jonathan Taylor. I have him in this league as well. Yes, he's kind of just ruined my fantasy season as a whole. And this offseason, I'm really going to think long and hard. Like, do I want to keep McCaffrey and Mixon? Because, you know, they're still productive. They're at an age where there's not this immediate decline looming. But if I get rid of them, how am I going to replace that production? But with running backs, I would rather be a little early than even a second late, because once a running back falls off for fantasy, they're usually done. It's very hard for them to regain that, you know, that value. Even McCaffrey, who, you know, he's had a great year, been amazing, because he had those 2 injury-riddled seasons. You know, he's not even really that crazy old. He's 26, but it's always going to be in people's minds, those 2 years where he really hurt people. So running backs are very dangerous to. It's like a ticking time bomb in Dynasty. So we'll see. It really comes down to the trade that I can get. But other than those 3 running backs at the 2 running back spots in the 1 flex, this is a double flex league, 3 wide receivers. I'm going with Zay Jones against Houston, the stack with Trevor Lawrence. I think last week was it was bad weather, tough matchup. I sat Zay Jones. I think he could have a nice little bounce back. Chris Godwin is a nice PPR machine, and this is a half PPR league, so that's perfect. DJ Moore, he had a good week last week on my bench. I'm putting him in my lineup this week, coming off of 2 good games, 3 good games in 4 weeks. So now that he's in my lineup, he will probably do dreadful. He was not in my lineup for, I think, any of these games. Maybe Pittsburgh? I don't think he was. So that's just DJ Moore for you. And then Mike Williams, I kind of just throw him in there. If he has a big game, he does. If not, oh well. Dalton Schultz already played and did great. And I'm playing the Chargers defense against the Rams instead of the Cardinals against the Falcons. I think both are good plays, but I think the Chargers just have a better defense. I know the Rams had a great week, but it was against the Broncos last week. And I know their defense is good, but I think that team is sort of at the point where they're giving up. I think the Chargers I feel like the Chargers are just getting hot. They're getting healthy. I think they can make some plays against the Rams offense and Baker Mayfield. So this is the lineup. Tua's out. No Brady. I'm benching Brady. Jonathan Taylor on IR. So with the quarterback situation, it's kind of exciting to finally start Trevor Lawrence, who I drafted in the first round of a rookie draft. I'm glad to see him actually flash. Latavius Murray, I considered playing over like a Zay Jones or DJ Moore, but I just think the upside with these guys is a little higher. I think the game script is going to be bad for the Broncos. The Chiefs are going to be winning most likely from start to finish. Zonovan Knight, I could see him having a good game, but there's a lot of risk just because it's a committee, and if the game script has to go right where he can get enough touches in the running game. DeAndre Hopkins is out, so I'm not able to start him, obviously. Courtland Sutton, I thought about playing him, but he's just that offense is just dreadful. And by the way, speaking of that offense, McCaffrey, I traded away a future first and Jerry Jeudy. So I was for a rebuilding team. I gave him a young player and a first round pick. I got back a win now running back. And my thinking was if I want to, I could trade McCaffrey after the season and probably get similar value in return, like a Jeudy and first round pick type of package. Maybe even more now that he played a season healthy. Knock on wood. Hopefully, we still got more time in the playoffs, so hopefully he can stay in one piece here. But I did not play Dallas Goedert. Just played the matchup, Dalton Schultz, and it worked out. I mean, unless Dallas Goedert comes out and puts up 30, but either way, I'm happy. And yeah, so those are all the lineups for our championship week, even though I'm playing for third place. I just wanted to make this final video for you guys. I don't know if I'm going to do it next year or not, but I just kind of like making these videos for fun just so people can follow along with my leagues because, I don't know, I set my lineup, so I might as well record it and share what I learned or what I observed. I also post starts of the week videos pretty frequently, so check that out. And with that being said, I'm going to hit the hay. It's almost 6 in the morning here. I got to wake up hopefully before noon to watch some football. So thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a happy new year. Please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.